Okay, so we're going to be doing something slightly different today. Um, I'm going to be starting the session with a video, slightly educational, but not in a forceful way, hopefully. Um, yeah, and if I was going to give this session a title, I suppose I call it something along the lines of the breath, or even the 5 Bs of the breath. Um, yeah, so hopefully that might make some more sense um, as the session progresses. So yeah, so what I'll do is I'm going to share this video a couple of times. It's in French, so I'm going to put it on mute, um, and I think I'm going to play it a couple of times, and really just take your time, just observing it. You know, yeah, almost. How can I put this? It's that whole not trying to grab hold of information. So just just see what sticks really, and if nothing does, that's absolutely fine. Let it just pass through you. Um, And then I think we'll have just a little bit of a mini break. So that would be the equivalent of, say, the first sort of meditation. And then we'll go into this main meditation about the breath. I call it a meditation. It's a meditation, but it's also something which I would probably call an inquiry. So we're also sort of doing a little bit of an inquiry throughout the meditation. But yeah, that should become clearer as we progress. So let me share the screen. Okay, so one sec. Okay, I can't actually see anybody now, so can everybody see the screen okay? Could somebody just say yes?
Yes, thank you.
Brilliant. Okay, here goes. I'll play it twice through. Okay, so I just very sort of give a little bit of some pointers, what we're looking at here. It's probably pretty obvious, but it's this idea of how the breath affects the whole of the body. So this gentleman has identified 4 diaphragms. So you've got a cranial diaphragm. So there's actually movement with the breath of the skull. There's movement at the cervical diaphragm, which is the throat and the base of the skull. Then there's the big diaphragm across the center of the body. That's the sort of one that we know as the diaphragm. And then there's the pelvic diaphragm. So that's at the base of the body. And that's also impacted. So they all sort of move sort of together in a sort of they sort of mirror each other in their movement. And then just all the organs sort of added at this stage in the video. And you can see how much movement there is in the guts. So I think I've heard 4 to 6 centimeters in various different things I've read. Then also how the muscles work in symbiosis with those 2 diaphragms. So the thoracic and the pelvic. So everything is getting almost like a bit of a workout just from the breath, just from the natural breath. I know this seems quite exaggerated, but then you can see the upper body moving. You can see the cervical diaphragm, how that moves as well. So it's like an opening and a closing, an opening and a releasing sort of phase. That's the way I describe that. And then there he is with his skin on. Okay, so I'll stop the share. Okay, so I think what I'll do is I'll probably just go straight into the meditation and we can just take a little bit of time setting ourselves up. So I'm going to lie down for this meditation, but you're welcome to sit or stand, whatever works for you. I think the two points I would sort of make would be, I want you to be comfortable. So I want your body to feel supported. But I don't want you to feel so comfortable that you're sort of zoning out. So that sort of idea of being comfortable but alert. So yeah, I'm going to try and engineer that now myself. Okay. So hopefully you can see me okay. Okay, so settling down into your chosen position. And really allowing yourself to arrive. Feel supported by the surface beneath you. So a word I quite like is the idea of yielding. So we're yielding our weight into the surface that's supporting us. And we're allowing that surface to do its job and support us. So often we can perch on things. We perch on a seat, or we hold ourselves up. So, or hold ourselves together. So we're just allowing ourselves to really feel supported by that surface, be that the chair or the floor or the bed. Feeling those contact points. just settling and gradually becoming aware of the breath. So I'd just like to say at this stage, before we start this sort of exploration, if you like, if at any stage you feel, uncomfortable or maybe a bit anxious or overwhelmed, or just want to stop for any reason, that's absolutely fine. This is your experience, so you do what works for you. You could maybe take your attention to another anchor point instead of the breath, maybe the hands or the feet or the weight of your body, feeling that weight. Or even open your eyes and find an object in the room, perhaps, just to focus and settle. So becoming aware of the breath, the natural breath in the body. How does that breath show up for you? Maybe you've been rushing before the session, might be high in your chest perhaps, or you might begin to start feeling calm. It might be quite a nice sort of soothing rhythm. You might not even be aware of your breath, and that's just fine. It's fine to be aware of nothing. There are no rules or do's or don'ts. So taking your attention now down to your feet. So this is the base of your body. So if you're sitting on a chair, really imagine, the feet really connecting into the ground below. So you're using your imagination, but you're also feeling it. You're sort of using your imagination to encourage it, if that makes sense. I always struggle to try and explain this. I suppose we're not taking our awareness outside of us. We're trying to inhabit our bodies. We're trying to embody. So really feel those feet supported, weighted, connecting with the earth. And if you're lying and feeling your lower legs, perhaps the whole of your legs even, just really sinking down, releasing, releasing into gravity. There's no need to hold or do anything. We're not going anywhere. We're just using this time just to do this little exploration of our body. So bringing your attention up through your legs now, your feet, your lower legs, through your knee joints, up into the thighs, the big muscles of the thighs. Resting here, supported. And then bringing your attention up into the buttocks. So once again, it's very, very common for me anyway to really tense in the buttocks. I find I got various points throughout my body, and this is definitely one of them. So just really becoming aware of what is going on there. What sensations are you experiencing within that area? Textures, if you like, even textures or tones, or perhaps there's even feelings and emotions. What's showing up for you here in the buttocks? Your buttocks. And then bringing your attention to your pelvic floor. So the pelvic floor is a large muscle, sort of sheet of muscle. And it connects at the front, at the urinary organs, at the front, and then out at either side, a bit like a diamond. It connects into the sitting bones on either side of the pelvis, the base of the pelvis. Then at the back, into the anus. So it's like a diamond shape of muscle. Perhaps you can become aware of what's here for you now. Maybe there's a sense possibly of the breath even in this area. I know in that video there was a lot of movement, I think possibly exaggerated just to make the point. But if we really allow ourselves that time and space just to explore this area, we might become aware of some movement there, some movement on the in and the out breath. We might not. That's absolutely fine too. This is definitely not pelvic floor exercises, so we're not trying to do anything here. So what's happening now? Maybe your mind's gone on a little journey. If it has, that's absolutely fine and completely natural. I suppose you could even call this a magic moment of awareness because you've become aware that your mind has wandered away from your pelvic floor. So just noting that and just gently and kindly bringing your mind back to the area that we're focusing on. So the pelvic floor, that sheet of muscle deep within the body. And then bringing the attention up the body, up towards the main central diaphragm of the body. So, as I said, this is traditionally the area that we call the diaphragm. So once again, another large sheet of muscle connecting through the center of the torso, the base of the ribs. So are you aware of any movement here, perhaps? I tend to find if I rest my hands on my tummy, I can get a really vivid experience of that movement. So the diaphragm's a bit like an umbrella. So it sort of opens out on the in-breath or the inhalation. So it pushes down into the abdominal cavity and all the organs are sort of displaced, sort of pushed outwards. So the belly rises. And then on the out breath, it's like the umbrella's closing. The diaphragm resumes its sort of concave shape up in the sort of cavity of the rib cage. Air's pushed out of the lungs. And all the organs sort of return back into their original place. So what's this experience like for you? What's your breath like, your natural breath? If you've got your hands on your belly, if you're lying, perhaps you can feel that gentle rise and fall of the abdomen. I like to imagine that the breath is giving my organs are like an internal massage. So blood and sort of all the liquids and all the processes, everything's being massaged by that sort of breath, by that natural movement of the breath. So we're really trying, and I've caught myself trying, we're trying not to try, because in trying then we don't get anywhere. But I suppose what I'm trying to say is we're trying to inhabit the breath. So we're not observing the breath from the outside looking in. We're trying to experience or aiming to or wanting to. It all sounds strivey, whatever word I use. But that idea of inhabiting the breath, so being within flow, within those movements, within awareness of the breath. So that opening and subsiding, that receptive sort of swelling and subsiding of the pelvic floor. Both those muscles sort of moving in conjunction. Perhaps you can feel that in your body even. And then moving the attention round to the back. So moving down to the base of the spine, to the sacrum, to the lower 5 lumbar vertebrae. I read somewhere that the sort of sacrum and this lower back area and the hips and the pelvic floor, they're like the foundation of the breath. So if everything is tight and contracted, then the breath can't express itself naturally. It's inhibited. So what movements or sensations can you feel here at the base of your spine? There are actually some long muscles from the diaphragm, from the central diaphragm, the thoracic diaphragm, that connect down into the lumbar vertebra. I think it's the top 4 lumbar vertebra they attach into the inside. So they're intrinsically linked in terms of moving. Perhaps you can feel this movement, but equally perhaps you can't. Perhaps you can feel pain even in this area. It's quite common for people to get lower back pain, soreness, or aching. Stiffness, maybe. Maybe you could imagine the breath gently soothing and massaging, rocking, cradling even. In the flow of the breath, the natural breath. And then bringing the attention up the body to the middle back. And then the upper back. What sensations you're experiencing here, if any? We've got the scapula on either side of the spine. Got the bony rib cage housing the lungs. Whole thoracic girdle, if you like. I find it fascinating that the scapula, they're not attached. Nothing's attached to the rib cage. It's like free floating. If you move higher up, sort of pectoral girdle, that's all free floating. So I suppose it has to be, because it has to allow space for the lungs. I think people I know I definitely used to think of the lungs being in the front of the body, the chest, but actually they're as much in the back of the body. Maybe you can feel the change in pressure if you're lying as you breathe in and out. Or if you're sitting, perhaps you can feel that change on either side of your ribs. There might be a gentle expansion and contraction against the inside of your upper arms. And now becoming aware of the whole of the back. So the base, the coccyx, the sacrum, all the way up those 24 vertebrae. Really connecting in into sensation, into breath, into flow. Nothing static, everything fluid, moving and changing. And then bringing the awareness round, up to the throat, the front of the throat, the back of the throat, the base of the skull, the sides of the throat, the neck, the shoulders either side, releasing away from the midline. A general opening in this area. Perhaps you can feel this, or perhaps you can find that you're still holding, just becoming aware of this. Sometimes just in paying attention, we can actually let go of the attention, let go of the tension. Sometimes not. But at least if we can become aware, then we have a degree of choice. So bringing your attention round now, sort of into your throat. So the back of the throat, the back of the mouth, if you like. The jaw. The tongue. I think I read somewhere there was like several muscles that make up the tongue. It's like a really quite a mighty, I suppose it has to be quite a strong muscle to help us with our eating and talking. So the tongue, what's happening here in the tongue and the mouth, the jaw, allowing the whole area to be soft. We can hold a lot of tension here, I think, also because of talking and communicating. I know I sort of curl my tongue up and wrap it up in the base of my mouth. I always become aware of that in body scans. It's just allowing your awareness just to settle upon any activity that you might be doing. Soft tongue, soft jaw, soft throat, soft lips, soft cheeks and face. And then becoming aware of the skull itself, the big globe of the skull. If you're lying, you'll be resting, supported by the pillow beneath. If you're sitting, you have your head poised at the top of your spine, sort of balanced. I find the way one can balance one's head, the way the body sort of does that, quite a beautiful process of that sort of natural ability just to sort of balance and rest at the top of the spine. So many small muscles sort of all working together. So the head doesn't roll forward or roll back. Beautifully poised at the top of the spine. And then becoming aware of the brain. So this is where, once again, the imagination might be quite handy. It's quite hard to feel your brain, to feel into your brain. Sometimes I like to imagine that all the thoughts in my brain are like sort of taking a little rest. They're all lying down, having a little lie down. So in that video, right at the beginning of the video, we saw all the plates of the skull. They were moving, sort of opening and closing, that whole sort of cranial nest that the brain sits in. There was a gentle opening and subsiding, opening and resting back. Rippling of the breath up from the central core of the body, all the way up into the head. A spaciousness there. Perhaps even imagining a soft brain, because it is actually a soft organ, predominantly made up of water. So once again, softness, fluidity, movement. So now becoming aware of the whole of the body. So we're broadening out the awareness, bringing in the feet, awareness of the feet, the legs, the lower legs, the upper legs, pelvis, the back, the front, the torso, the arms resting on either side, releasing away. Perhaps even a gentle opening here in the shoulder joints with the breath. The head, the fifth limb, if you like, of the body, the neck and the head. So 2 arms, 2 legs, and a head. So as I bring this meditation to an end, just like to just do a gentle reminder of those 5 B's that I mentioned if I was going to give this meditation a title. So it would be the buttocks, the pelvic floor, the back, the movement of the breath in the back, the belly, the movement of the breath from the abdomen to the belly area, then the base, the skull, and the base of the throat, the back of the throat. The breath as it enters here, exits the lungs. And then finally, the breath in the brain. So that little echo right up into the skull bones, the whole cavity of the head. Whole symphony of movement and flow, processes. Nothing static or solid or held, fixed. I think it's in the Satipatthana Sutta. I think there's a teaching, it's something like carry on calmly knowing change. Carry on calmly knowing change. So the breath is a continuous process of change. The body is a continuous process of change. Thoughts changing, emotions changing, sensation changing. So then gradually becoming aware of the weight and the shape of the body, the whole perimeter of the body here resting, either lying or sitting on the chair, or lying on the bed or the floor. If you've had your eyes closed, then gently opening your eyes and just reorienting back into the room, letting the light in, shapes, the colour. Maybe introducing some movements. An extension, if you like, of the breath, the natural breath. Bigger movements, grosser movements. Just cueing yourself back into your body and back, into the now. So you bring this meditation to an end.